Ever noticed how the urge to buy something hits hardest when you're feeling low? Not when you're happy, but when you're lonely, rejected, or just tired. It's strange, isn't it? You tell yourself it's just a small treat, a little comfort after a rough day. But deep down, you know it's something else. Something quieter. Something emptier. It's not weakness. It's wiring. Sadness changes how your brain values things. How it judges worth, risk, and reward. In that moment, a small purchase feels like control. Like proof that you can still give yourself something when the world won't. But here's the catch. The same emotion that makes you want to spend also makes you believe it'll fix what you feel. And it never does. In few minutes, we're unpacking why that happens. Why sadness opens your wallet. How emotion reshapes your sense of value. And how to take back control. Without guilt. Because this isn't about stopping yourself from buying. It's about understanding why you buy. And finally learning how to meet your emotions. Without a receipt. We all spend money. But not all spending is the same. There's intentional spending. The kind that aligns with your goals, your values, your future. It's when you buy something because it adds meaning. Not because it fills a moment. And then there's emotional spending. The coffee you didn't really need after that rough meeting. The late night treat yourself, order that felt more like therapy than shopping. It's self-care splurge that, if you're honest, was really just a way to escape. You tell yourself it's harmless, a small reward, a little comfort. But underneath, it's emotional regulation disguised as decision-making. Because when you buy in those moments, you're not buying an object. You're buying a feeling. We don't buy things. We buy control. We buy comfort. We buy confidence. Temporary substitutes for the emotions we've lost. And this is where the pattern begins. Sadness doesn't just change your mood. It changes your brain's valuation system. It literally shifts the way you assign worth. Not just to money, but to yourself. So when you're sad, you don't just feel different. You think different. And the choices you make with your wallet start reflecting the emotions you're trying to escape. Sadness isn't just a feeling. It's a full-body shift, a neurochemical event. When you're sad, dopamine levels drop. That's the brain's reward chemical, the spark behind motivation, pleasure, and anticipation. With less dopamine, even simple things feel heavier. You lose that natural drive to seek joy. And then comes the scroll, the cart, the click. Shopping triggers a small dopamine surge. Not from owning something, but from anticipating it. In neuroscience, that's called a reward prediction error. The gap between what you expect and what you might get. The orbitofrontal cortex, the brain's decision-making hub, lights up. It tells you, this could make you feel better. And for a moment it does. That's why retail therapy feels real. It's not a myth. It's a neurochemical compensation. The act of buying becomes less about having and more about hoping. It's the brain's way of self-medicating uncertainty. But neuroscience is only half the story. In psychology, there's something called emotion regulation theory, developed by researcher James Gross. It explains that when we face emotions we can't easily control, we try to change how we feel about them. We spend not to change reality, but to change how we feel about reality. Studies show that sadness doesn't just cloud judgment. It literally shifts decision-making patterns. When people feel sad, they become more impatient, more willing to pay extra for immediate gratification. It's a trade, emotional relief now, financial regret later. And that trade isn't random. It's patterned. It's predictable. Because sadness also brings something else. A sense of helplessness. When life feels out of control, a single purchase feels like proof that you still have agency. Behavioral economist Dan Ariely calls it the illusion of control. In a 2008 Harvard study, Jennifer Lerner found that participants who felt sad were willing to pay up to 30% more for the same item than those in a neutral mood. 30%. Not because they valued the object more, but because they valued themselves less in that moment. That's the hidden cost of sadness. It doesn't just drain your emotions. It quietly distorts your sense of worth and your willingness to spend to feel whole again. Meet Nina. She's 32. She's smart, responsible, and grounded, the kind of person who plans her week, tracks her spending, and keeps her life in neat little lists. But lately, those lists have started to blur. A few months ago, she went through a breakup. Not explosive, just quiet. The kind that leaves you checking your phone out of habit and wondering how something so steady could just disappear. The first week, Nina stayed busy. The second week, she stayed online. It started small. A new skincare routine. A pair of shoes she'd been eyeing for months. A few gadgets that promised fresh starts and better mornings. Each order felt justified. Each purchase felt like self-care. And yet, every box that arrived on her doorstep carried something heavier than what was inside. Because what Nina was really trying to buy wasn't beauty or convenience or confidence. It was proof. Proof that she still mattered. Proof that she could still create change, even if it was just a different serum on her shelf. For Nina, the packages weren't purchases. They were proof she still existed. Someone worth tending to. But what Nina didn't realize is that sadness doesn't just open your wallet. It rewires your identity. It teaches your brain that comfort equals consumption. That healing comes in cardboard boxes. And that worth can be delivered if you can just find the right thing to buy. By now, Nina's story might feel familiar. Because she's not the only one caught in that loop. She's part of a system that was built to catch her there. Every scroll, every pause, every late-night search. It's all data. And that data tells a story about how you feel. Algorithms are trained to notice the patterns you don't even see. They know when you're online at midnight. They know what you linger on, what you rewatch, what you click and then delete. They don't need to read your mind. They just read your timing. Late night browsing? Low mood. High replays on comfort content? Emotional fatigue. Lingering on before and after videos? Low self-worth, high purchase potential. And then the ads appear. Soft colors. Slow music. Words that sound like care but mean conversion. Treat yourself. You deserve it. Two of the most powerful emotional triggers in modern advertising. They take the language of self-compassion and turn it into a sales funnel. Because modern marketing doesn't sell products. It sells temporary emotional relief. You're not buying skincare. You're buying calm. You're not buying a gadget. You're buying control. You're not buying clothes. You're buying the version of yourself that feels loved again. And it works, not by coincidence but by chemistry. Marketers know that warm tones mimic serotonin. Major keys in music evoke optimism. Even the rhythm of an ad, that slow rise, that gentle pause before the logo, is designed to sync with your heartbeat. The goal isn't to convince your mind. It's to soothe your nervous system long enough for you to click buy now. But the real danger isn't what they sell you. It's what they teach your brain to crave next time you're sad. Because once sadness becomes a shopping queue, you're no longer spending to feel better. You're feeling worse to spend again. At first, it's just comfort. Then it becomes habit. And eventually, it becomes identity. Because when you spend to feel whole, you start to confuse consumption with self. Each purchase becomes a small declaration. I still matter. I still exist. I'm still someone. Philosopher Eric Fromm once drew a distinction between two ways of living, to have or to be. In the to have mode, identity is built through possessions. You are what you own, what you wear, what you can show. But in the to be mode, identity is grounded in experience, in presence, connection, and meaning. And the modern world rewards the first far more than the second. When we feel emotionally empty, buying becomes a language. We say, I buy, therefore I am. But that language slowly replaces our own. Every purchase promises to restore something internal, confidence, joy, love, but delivers something external instead. And over time, that trade disconnects self-worth from self-awareness. You start to measure who you are by what you acquire, not by what you feel or what you create. But there's a way to break that loop, not by resisting sadness, but by decoding it, because sadness itself isn't the enemy. It's a message, and learning to listen to it is how you begin to take your identity back. Understanding why we spend when we're sad isn't about guilt, it's about choice. And choice begins with awareness. Awareness pause technique. Most emotional spending starts with a feeling, not a thought. Loneliness, stress, boredom, a quiet ache that asks to be filled. Before you reach for your phone or your card, pause. Take 3 slow breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Again and again. That's the 3-breath rule. It sounds simple, but it interrupts the emotional circuitry, the milliseconds between impulse and action, and gives your prefrontal cortex, your rational brain, time to come back online. You can't eliminate the urge, but you can slow it down. And in that space, control returns. B. Emotional substitution. Then redirect the energy not by suppression, but by substitution. If what you're craving is dopamine, you can generate it in healthier ways. Listen to a song that lifts your mood. Move, stretch, walk, dance. Write down what you're feeling. In neuroscience, this is called emotion labeling. When you name a feeling, sadness, frustration, loneliness, you activate the prefrontal cortex, and that reduces emotional intensity almost instantly. You don't need to fight the sadness. You just need to translate it. See financial habit stack. Now, transform that moment into something restorative. Each time you feel the urge to spend, redirect it toward a self-investment action. Save that money toward therapy, toward learning, toward travel, toward something that expands you, not just soothes you. In doing that, sadness becomes a signal, not a trap. A reminder to invest in your future self. Instead of escaping your present one, turn sadness into a saving signal. Because the goal isn't to stop feeling, it's to start listening, and to let your emotions fund your growth, not your regret. Sadness isn't a flaw. It's communication. It's your mind's way of saying, something needs attention. But when we answer that voice with consumption, we silence what it's trying to tell us. Because spending can numb sadness, but it can't heal it. And healing doesn't come from owning. It comes from understanding. We've spent this time exploring the space between emotion and money, the invisible thread that connects what we feel to what we buy. But at its heart, this isn't a story about spending. It's a story about self-awareness, about learning to pause long enough to ask the question that really matters. What am I actually trying to feel? Because your emotions don't need to be fixed. They need to be heard. Your emotions deserve understanding, not a receipt. If this helped you see your own patterns a little more clearly, or offered language for something you've always felt, stay with us. Here we explore the quiet spaces, where psychology, money, and identity intertwine, and how to untangle them, one insight at a time.